Here in Zone 6A, the days are getting longer, the nights are getting warmer, and I can literally feel things growing. It's been rainy and overcast quite a bit the last few days, which is wonderful for my seedlings that are acclimating to the outdoors. I'm bringing in armfuls of asparagus and rhubarb and harvesting mixing bowls full of teas and herbs to fill my drying rack in the basement, and I'm even starting to bring in our first spring salads. Our milk cow is supplying us with rivers of milk and cream since her production has increased from eating all the green grass instead of hay. I'm filling the freezer with logs of yellow grass butter to last us for the year. The chicks and the ducks are growing like weeds, and the laying hens are patiently waiting to be moved out to pasture. Everything's needing to be done all at once. Spring is all about new life and abundance, and we're doing our best to keep up.
We're gonna be planting stuff down in our garden down there, but we're gonna start with this one up here. And before we get this one planted, it needs to be weeded. I'm just taking the wheel hoe through here with the stirrup hoe on it. This thing is amazing. Just cutting these weeds right off, cutting way down on time. No pun intended, right? When you go back and forth with the wheel hoe, not only does it cut them off, but then it like flips them over so that they don't keep growing. Down in that garden, we're gonna be planting corn and a few beets. Up here, we wanna plant some more onions. Michelle's gonna be talking about that a little bit. And then we also wanna plant some carrots, and we wanna give you some good tips for getting your carrots started right.
So these onions that I'm planting are the onions that I grew myself. I started these from seed this winter. I started them like very late February, and I don't honestly have a ton of faith in them. They just stayed small. I could not get them to get bigger. I planted some of them out, like gave them more space, tried to figure out how to make them taller and bigger and like just sturdier, and they just didn't go anywhere. So this is definitely an experiment. I'm just gonna plant these, see how they do. I still planted quite a few onions that I got from Berlin Seed because I don't want to be left without a good onion harvest this fall. I'm shooting for around 100 onion plants. That usually does pretty well for our family for the year. We actually are just now eating the last onions out of our root cellar, so 100 onions fared very well for us last year. One thing I really like to shoot for when I'm planting onions is to grow really big fat onions because they store really well in the root cellar over the winter if they're bigger. My first tip for growing big onions is to make sure they have rich soil. When we did farmer's market, this was like years ago, I walked up to one of the vendors, and I mean, he had the biggest onions I've ever seen in my life. They were literally this big. They looked like almost gruesome. They were so massive. And I asked him, I was like, what's the secret to your massive onions? And he was like, oh, I just shoot them full of nitrogen. And obviously I'm not going to shoot my onions full of fake nitrogen like he was talking about. But one thing that I do try to really make sure I do is have very rich soil. This soil here is beautiful. It has tons of compost in it. And I really feel like this is going to make for some really nice big onions. The other thing I do is space them very far apart. You have to think about it. If your onions are like this close together, they're only going to get about that big. So I space mine quite far apart to make so that they can get really big. So you can see here, like this onion can get this big, this onion can get this big. The other thing that I think makes a huge, huge difference is planting onion seedlings versus onion sets. For me, it made a world of a difference in how big our onions got. Onions are absolutely a warm weather crop, but I find that they really like to have cool, wet soil. So as soon as these get established, these here are actually established enough. As soon as these onions get established, I'm going to mulch them with leaves, and that really helps to keep the soil underneath nice and cool and moist. You will be amazed at how mulching changes your onions. My all-time favorite onion varieties lately have been Patterson and Red Wing. Those just store so well in the root cellar, and onions are a huge staple for us for self-sustainability because they don't need any preservation. You can just cure them and then put them in your root cellar and they'll last the winter. I mean, I seriously just cut up an onion yesterday and you would have thought I had pulled it from the garden yesterday, and it was actually from like, what, 9 months ago or something. So onions are very, very simple. They don't have pest issues. Definitely something that's really good for beginner gardeners. Onions will grow to some extent in shade, but if you want giant bulb onions, you're gonna have to have them in a place where they get full sun. So if you have raised beds that are partly shaded, you can grow onions. They're just probably not gonna get massive.
This is just me making sure the rows are straight again. When I'm just digging a small trench like this for something like carrots or whatever, we just use a regular hoe because it's a little trench. That wheel hoe that I used in our last video though, that's what I use when I'm needing a bigger, deeper one like for the potatoes, and that works great. It also makes a difference how hard the dirt is. If it's harder, that wheel hoe makes it a whole lot easier than using a hand hoe like this. One of the things we love the most about spring is getting outside and breathing in the fresh, clean air. And we don't want to give that up when we go inside the house. When we built our house, we tried to use low VOC products and we tried to use as few chemicals as possible. The Birch mattress fits right in. They're made with non-toxic materials like organic wool and organic cotton instead of things like fiberglass and polyurethane foams that other mattress companies use. We spend a third of our lives on our mattress, and it's good to know that we don't have to worry about toxic off-gassing from it while we're sleeping. Michelle and I have been sleeping on the Birch Luxe natural mattress for half a year now, and we absolutely love it. It's super comfortable and we're sleeping better. Recently, our 3-year-old was ready to move from a crib to a regular bed, so we got her the Birch Kids natural mattress. It's cool because it has a firmer side for when they're younger and a softer side for when they're a little older. Obviously, it's hard for her to explain exactly how she feels about her mattress, but she's been loving her new bed, and we love knowing that she's sleeping on something that's naturally hypoallergenic. Birch's Memorial Day sale is going right now, so you can get 25% off your mattress plus 2 free EcoRest pillows. Go to birchliving.com/morethanfarmers to find out more about this limited time offer. You'll also get a 100-night sleep trial plus a 25-year warranty, and they'll ship it to your door for free in the US. And they offer in-home setup and removal to make it as easy as possible for you.
I gave the kids lunch and put them down for their naps and came out to plant again, and now it looks like it's gonna rain. Usually with carrots, I just kind of wing it. Some years we have like way too many, and some years, you know, it's just right, whatever. I'm going to do the Danver half long, which is my all-time favorite carrot. They're nice and short and stocky, and they last forever. We're still eating carrots from last fall and spring. And then I'm also going to try a new one this year called Red Cord Chantenay. I actually found these seeds at Walmart, but Berlin Seeds has them as well. I just grabbed these because somehow I missed putting them on my Berlin seed order. I'm just going to do one short row of these. I don't like experimenting with massive quantities of things. I seed mine pretty thickly and then I thin them later. That's just always how I've done it. I am meticulous with thinning carrots because your carrots will not get big if they're too close together. You can definitely get the pelleted carrot seeds and they might save you some time, but there's not very many varieties in the pelleted kind that I know of, so this is what I do for now. Thinning carrots is something you just have to do one time. It's not.
I'm feeling raindrops.
Darn.
It's not supposed to rain for long, so hopefully we can plant the rest of our stuff later.
We got rained out of the garden, so we're going to wait it out up here on the porch. What we're gonna do after it stops raining is get boards and lay it down over the rows of carrots. That really helps those carrots to germinate well in the cool, dark wetness down there underneath the board. But one thing then that you really want to do is as soon as those seedlings come up, you need to take the boards off. Otherwise you will destroy your carrot seedlings.
This is pallet lumber from where I used to work. What I have here is not nearly enough for this right here. I stepped it out and we've got about 120 feet of carrots right here. So I'm gonna have to go see if I can find more boards.
When I'm planting seeds that are really fine, like carrots and beets and things like that, I like to tamp the soil down over top of the seeds. That direct contact with the soil really helps them to sprout better. Putting boards on top of your carrots isn't something that's absolutely essential to get them to germinate. I started using the boards in the fall when I'm trying to germinate carrot seeds for a fall harvest, and what would happen is I planted them in the summer and it was really warm, and carrot seedlings, they don't like to germinate when it's too hot outside. So the boards really help to shade everything, keep it cool, and make so that you can have a fall harvest. It worked so well that I just started doing it in the spring as well. Cody is back there like measuring everything and making sure everything is square and perfect. And that is exactly how he built our house. He built our house with his own 2 hands, and I don't think our house will crumble or burn on Judgment Day. I think it will stand forever and ever. I am wanting to plant a bunch of wildflowers and things like that here and there for our bees. We have a ton of bees. And what I've been noticing is that anytime there's any pollen anywhere, they're just like all over it. And so I just want to make so that there's more places like that. I want to bring the bees into our garden to make so that we have more fruit and stuff. So I want to plant this front strip here in wildflowers, because honestly, we have too much space in our garden this year. It's just wide open because this strawberry patch was taken out, some of the asparagus was taken out, plus we took some of the raspberries out, and we used to have a hoop house here. So now we just have space to spread out and be creative, and it's super, super fun.
I don't know if you can see as I'm putting this trench in, this soil is really clumpy. Now, I don't know if you remember last fall when we put a cover crop in here, we hadn't thought far enough ahead and we didn't get a specific cover crop. I went to Tractor Supply and got a bag of like a deer food plot mix, and it had grass in it. I was hoping stuff would winter kill, it didn't. And so I tried tilling it in a couple times already this spring, and it's still just really clumpy. And so we know what not to plant as a cover crop. And so we know what not to plant as a cover crop next time. This will still be good soil, it's just clumpy. And that's part of the reason why we decided to plant the corn here. Corn is one of like our least important crops, if you want to say it that way. We try to plant things that are like very basic necessities. Potatoes and carrots, those store really well. We do want to do a lot of corn this year and be able to preserve some, but it's not as high on our priority list. So if it doesn't do quite as good as some of the other stuff, I mean, like the soil is like compacted enough and stuff that trying to grow carrots or potatoes in here would not be a good idea.
I will say, I do think that the cover crop with the ryegrass would have worked okay if we would have worked it in last fall instead of waiting until late this spring, because it was very established. It would not have been last fall, but Cody wanted to wait. Should I just blame this all on you?
That's fine. I'll take it.
I didn't mean to blame that all on Cody. But yeah, he wanted to wait, and so I was just like, okay, whatever, because he was the one who was going to do the tilling. So I do think if we would have done it last fall, it would have been fine, but it's okay.
Yeah,
all good.
She was right. That's fine. I'll admit it. This is our 6th row here, and we're going to stop with this for the sweet corn. And actually, we're going to wait at least another week to plant the popcorn. They are different amount of days to maturity, but it's not quite enough difference that I think we should wait at least another week to make sure that they don't cross-pollinate. We don't want to mess up either one of those. So we're going to get this 6th row done here, plant the sweet corn, and then if you stick around for our next video, we'll probably plant the popcorn.
We chose incredible sweet corn to plant this year. I have tried planting other like heirloom sweet corns in the past, and I never had like the best success with it. Incredible worked really well. It's what my mom has been planting for the last how many years, and she loves it. So I just decided to go with Incredible this year. It does have this like seed treatment on it. It's an organic seed treatment that Berlin Seeds is doing that's supposed to just help the seed like not rot in the ground and stuff. Honestly, I didn't mean to get the treated ones. I don't usually do anything treated like that, even if it's organic. I don't know, it just isn't really worth it to me. But I did it by accident, so I guess we'll see how it works. I'm not gonna give a ton of tips on growing sweet corn because I don't actually have just tons of experience with it. Basically, what I know about sweet corn is that it's a very heavy feeder. And so last year when I grew a couple rows of sweet corn, I did fertilize it with fish. I don't do a ton of fertilizing in my garden, but this is something that I will fertilize with fish. We also put some really rich compost on here. It came directly out of our chicken coop, so hopefully this will do really well. We have an earthway seeder in our shop over there, or shed over there. And honestly, I don't like using gadgets and things like that. I would rather just put it in by hand. I tried working with it a few years ago, and I got so tired of like, sometimes it would just dump seeds and next it wouldn't let down any seeds at all, and like filling the hopper and all the things. I just got annoyed with it. This is fun for me, so I just do it by hand. Cody's the gadget guy. If he was in charge of the garden, he'd be using the earthway, but I don't know, this is just my preferred method. Another reason that I have hesitated to plant corn in my garden in the past is that we have cornfields all around us, and I just didn't want to be serving my family something that cross-pollinated with the field corn. My kids just love sweet corn, and they beg and beg and beg for it, and so I've kind of just let it go. We do the best we can, but the problem with trying to plant at different times is that Sweet corn and field corn have like different days to, they have different days to maturity. I have been driving by cornfields that the corn is about this high. Hopefully we're like 2 weeks behind, at least 3 weeks behind. I don't know. I've just kind of let it go, honestly. Sometimes when I make comments about like not wanting to feed my family GMO food and things like that, people think I'm paranoid and stuff like that. But the thing is that once you've had health issues, you know what it feels like to not feel good. And then you heal yourself using natural foods and staying away from junk and stuff. It just becomes a whole lot more precious to you. Health is not something I take for granted. It's something that I think about all the time. I know the power of food.
We would really like to put in more raised beds. There's some more things we'd like to be able to plant in raised beds. But corn is one thing that I think we would always want to plant down at ground level, just because it gets pretty windy through here. And we've already had some problems with corn blowing over. And if it was that much higher yet in a raised bed, it'd be even worse. While Michelle is watering those seeds in, I'm gonna get ready to trellis these tomatoes. So in the past, we've been using these square tomato cages here, which are awesome. If you're gonna use tomato cages, these are the way to go. And we'll probably still use these for some of the determinate tomato varieties this year. But for the indeterminate ones, those just get way too big. They grow out of the top of them, they fall over the place. So we're gonna be using some cattle panels that are taller, and hopefully that'll work better for us. We've got a couple more things to plant, but I'm not sure where Michelle wants to plant them in the garden. So I'll just work on this until she's ready. What's so cool about these cages is, number one, they're sturdy and they fold and they store really nicely. We used to do a bunch of tomato plants when we did farmers markets. We had a lot of tomato cages, and round ones do not store well. But I will say I've seen some at some like big box stores of these square folding ones that were very cheesy, not sturdy. If you want some good ones, I haven't really found a good place to get them online, but Berlin Seeds does carry them. You can order them out of their catalog. These 5 down here are determinate tomato plants, and new plan, we're just gonna do a cattle panel for all of the tomatoes, just so it's simple. And it looks like it could rain again really soon here, so I guess we gotta hurry again. Welcome to spring in Ohio. Oh, and if you were wondering why these tomato cages were on there when we're gonna be trellising them with the cattle panels, we had them on there so Cowboy, our dog, wouldn't come in here and just totally wipe these things out.
We are racing the rain again. I have some space in this bed here, and I wanted to plant just a few red beets this year. My family does not like red beets. They think they're awful, but I love them. They taste like summer to me. My mom made them at home. She would just cook them and then put some butter and salt on them. Oh my goodness, they're so good. I also love them like cold in salads and sushi and things like that. So I'm gonna plant some for me. One trick that someone taught me with red beets is that when you cover them up, you wanna tamp them down. I guess the shell on the seed of the red beet is really tough. It really needs that solid soil contact to sprout well.
Okay babe, I'll run grab the post pounder. If you want to put these, one at each of those little holes that I made. It did start sprinkling there a little bit, but it looks like it's past us now, thankfully. And it's supper time. Just a quick break so we can get back out and finish the trellis. It's creamed asparagus and salad from the garden, fried potatoes from the root cellar, and roasted chicken that we raised last summer. The good food, the feeling of accomplishment, and the time with family is what we're working so hard for. I just bought this cheap used boat trailer to haul our little old rowboat, and also to double as a farm trailer, and it works great. These are 16-foot cattle panels and it worked perfect for it. Gonna have to get it over top of the tomatoes without ruining them. We watched a couple of other people's videos to see how to do this cattle panel trellis thingy, and so gonna, I guess, kind of combine a couple ideas, and we're just kind of figuring this out. This is the first year we used the cattle panels, and we'll just try something and see if it works. So we need one more here for the tomatoes, and I got a couple extra because we want to try some other trellising stuff this year too. That rain today put us behind a bit and it's getting late. We've got a couple other things in mind that we want to get done yet for this video, but it's gonna have to wait until tomorrow. It is an absolutely gorgeous morning, which is pretty crazy because last night there were tornado warnings. We had to huddle down in the basement. Thankfully, nothing came of it. There was not even any hail or bad winds or anything like that. Grateful for that, but it rained like crazy. Everything is wet. So whatever we were gonna do in the garden today is not gonna get done today. So next week we'll be doing a whole lot more planting and stuff. So make sure you stick around for that. And until then, you can watch this video next.